Francis.
Hi Hawk. How are you?
Well, good, I'm good. Welcome to Singapore.
Thank you very much, and thank you. I love being in Singapore.
How often do you come to Singapore?
At least 3 or 4 times a year. Hopefully, sometimes for performance. Sometimes I come and do. I do have friends here, and I do come and see them, even if I'm not performing. So I have a very close ties with Singapore.
How many times have you performed in Singapore?
If you really count the past, besides I just did something with New Opera Singapore this year in August. The Dialogues of the Carmelite. I got a small role, which I'm very thankfully I got a part to sing. But before that, I performed here I think a couple of times. I did something for Rainbow Center, which is a special school for children with autism. I was invited to perform in one of their gala evenings. That was 5 years ago. That was the very first time I sang in Singapore. And the second time was actually last year. I was a performing guest for a famous Malay celebrity chef. Her name is Aziza Ali. Because her sister is a very good friend of mine. And we performed for her book launch at Sunrise Cooking School. And I suppose you can consider that is also a performance.
I realized it was stage fright. It gets that serious.
It sounds serious to me because all I get is a feeling that I have a little tremble, my heart beating a little bit fast. Yeah. I mean, I did get that when I was doing the Carmelites because I haven't sung in the opera stage for over 10 years. And for me to come back is like someone sleep in a coma in the hospital. Come back and just try the legs and the hands again. And then you don't know if it's going to work. But you just say, okay, to hell with it. You just go on stage. And then everything just feels right. And then my mind went in the blur, but not blur of the music. I just blur out the audience. I'm just in an empty room doing my things sang as if that was the last day in my life, And I just sang my heart out. And that was a great feeling because when you finish a performance, you feel a little bit tired, but you have given something. That's a very good feeling. So that's how I got over my stage fright. I mean, I do get them, but they are helpful for me to. I
remember your entrance in the Carmelite.
Yes.
You came in like a mama-san.
I just walked in. You don't know how.
What was that your interpretation?
Well, I was kind of bossy. I was given the authority to be the center of the attention. All the nuns were very frightened of me because I was there to deliver a nasty message to them. Look, you guys, sit and listen. You've been behaving well. I'm going to give you something to eat. But guess what? After that, you're going to all die in the end. I had the joy of seeing their frightened faces.
So what was the attitude when you came on to do that?
Attitude is to just kill them all and also vindicate myself because I haven't been in the music world for quite a long time. And here I'm back. And for those who don't feel that I should be back, I just said, well, here I am, I'm here to stay, I'm here to sing, so what, And I'm so happy that this is Singapore. I have a lot of friends here, they're there to watch me, and I just go on stage and say, this is my moment to shine. So I wouldn't say nasty, but just say, I feel this is glory in my heart.
I can feel that because you came in with a kind of a flourish. And you left with a flourish.
Yes, I left.
Was that intentional?
Yeah, it was intentional.
Okay.
I grabbed the habits. I was given the authority to seize one of the habits of the nuns and then play with it.
You didn't do an opera for quite a bit.
Yes, I haven't done for a long time.
How long?
To be precise, 17 years.
Ooh.
Yeah, since 2003, I think.
What was that last?
The last opera I did was L'Élysée d'Amour in Hong Kong. And bits and pieces, and I did perform in a charity concert and things, but not in a full opera. I did miss that because I was not really signed up with the opera company in Hong Kong when they were recruiting. They mostly recruit foreigners, and very little things were given to locals. So, and I also too busy teaching. Getting the teaching, open my own open your own studio, nurturing children and things like that. I was actually getting a lot of joy in doing that, and while doing that, I kind of almost forgot about it. I should be back on the stage doing a performance. So I left that in the back boiler for a long time, and then I missed a lot of it, like a lot of both.
Didn't you think about it while you were doing the teaching?
A little bit.
A little bit.
It was not until last year, actually, when I met up with Christina Tay, a very famous soprano. She's a dear friend of mine. And we shared the same teacher in Australia, because I was trained in Australia. She was also trained in Australia, too. And we had the same teacher, Ruth Young. And she passed away last year, unfortunately, from old age. And we met each other again at the funeral. And she kindly asked me, Francis, are you still doing any operas? I haven't done for a long time. Didn't even really think about it. And she very, very kindly told me that, why don't you, try your luck in Singapore? I said, really? Are there any things in Singapore? I said, yeah, I'm working with a new opera in Singapore. And I met a very kind Miss Ailey Jong. And she listened. She was the one who auditioned me. I was very nervous. I haven't done audition for so long, at this age of mine, I was very glad that she liked me, and she offered me the part of the officer. For me, it was perfect, because having not been doing operas for so long, you don't want to get into something that is too big and too much responsibility on your shoulders. And also, they also need to know how you work in order to plan the future. You see what I mean? So I think what I was given was perfect. It was like 2.5 minutes of singing. It was just solo singing, but that is still very intense. So don't ever think that anything that appears in the opera is easy. When you actually put into work with your costumes and lighting and all that, it's actually 10 times harder than you think. And
because you have to prove yourself in 2.5 minutes.
Yes.
How would you describe your voice type? And what kind of roles are you personally interested in?
I would describe myself as a lyric baritone. As I becoming older now, I would describe myself as a lyric bass baritone. I have more of a lower notes. They are stronger now, but I have the ability to do a lot of coloraturas for arias and things. My desired roles will be anything Mozart and Donizetti's. They are really more my cup of tea, because I was not born with a big, huge voice, very woofy, that everybody loves having that voice, but I don't have one. So I come to the realizations that I was not going to be a Puccini, Verdi type baritone, but that's okay, because Mozart and Donizetti and Bellini, they're also very worth doing.
How about Rossini?
Rossini also, but Rossini tends to sit very high for a baritone of my. So for a bass baritone to sing Rossini, unless I'm getting the role of like the Docamara, very, very old Dr. Bartolo.
That would be.
But that would be too basic for me. So I decided Rossini he's not suited for my type of voice. So I learned to realize that you base your career on what you sing, but also base your career on what you don't sing. Because if you don't respect the limits of your voice and try to do something that you can't do, you're going to end up ruining yourself, and the audience is not going to like you. I mean, it's a very hard battle to win. In order for the audience to like you, you have to do something that is suitable for yourself, because you're comfortable, your comfort and happiness transfer to the audience. And if you're struggling, they know. Mozart, I did Don Alfonso in Quasi fan tutte, and I also did Figaro, of course. And I would love very much to sing Don Giovanni. Mm-hmm. But Don Giovanni, maybe I need a bit more studies, because that's a big role for baritone. I would be happy to do anything Mozart, the lesser known opera. Papageno, of course. I haven't done this role before, but I would think this role would suit me very well. Most of the time, I would like to portray happiness, ridicule, and funny, But I would love very much to do dramatic role where I am a killer or I'm a dying. I haven't done anything like that before, so I would love the challenge of doing tragic roles. But I was the last attempt at the Carmelite was a kind of an authority and a little bit nasty. That's already out of the ordinary.
Oh, you don't like to be nasty?
Oh no! I love being nasty. It's actually easier to be nasty. Yeah, that's easier to fit. So I actually like that part for me. On hindsight, I think the whole thing was a wonderful experience. Sometimes people tell me that they thought I was a tenor because of the quality of the voice, but I know I'm a baritone. A lyric type baritone has this tenor quality in the voice, so I'm certain of myself. Yes.
So you grew up in Hong Kong. You were born in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Grew up in Hong Kong.
Born and bred in Hong Kong.
Yes.
香港人.
Tell me about your life in Hong Kong.
My life in Hong Kong.
Where do you live? What kind of place you live in?
Well, I live in an apartment by myself.
Big apartment.
A big apartment. Fortunately, when my parents passed away, they left me a big apartment, and I was able to turn it into part living, part studio, like you.
Oh.
So when I teach, I actually at home. I don't have to go out, and that's the luxury of being a singing teacher, isn't it?
Especially in Hong Kong, right? Everything is so expensive.
Yeah, everything is expensive. If you rent a place, you have to pay exorbitant amounts of rents and electricity. The like you have to turn on air conditioner almost like 11 months of the year, because Hong Kong is getting, the global warming makes Hong Kong very hot now, you know, and also the transportation cost, they all have to be taken into account. And also when you rent a place, you want to make sure that the place is filled with students, and singing students, I don't know about you, but it's very hard to get singing students compared to piano students. People in Hong Kong, they keep thinking singing is not an instrument, which is wrong. Singing is an instrument. Singing, classical singing, the voice itself is a big musical instrument. It's an instrument, it is very unique. You cannot buy it. You only get given one. And whether you like it or not, that's the only one voice you got. You have to look after it. Otherwise, it will not serve you well. So I felt we have the responsibility of transferring that knowledge to future generation, to the student, that not only they wanted to sing well, they want to make sure that they keep themselves in good voice so that they will sing even better. So I think the task of being a singing teacher for me is consisting a major part of my life in Hong Kong, because I don't teach like every day, but I teach a few students a week. I don't take on a too large a load. That's just me, and I do think about a lot for them, preparing songs, making sure that the song suits their voice types and also their ability, and that's very exciting for me. And I love traveling. So I do travel regularly, like come to Singapore, for example. I just came back from Malacca on a road trip, and it was very interesting to go past Johor Bahru and I hit the Black Friday sale.
So what do you do in Malacca?
Malacca, I just sightseeing. I love culture. I love to look at history, and I love to look at scenery because they give me inspiration. You know what? I transfer the inspirations onto my singing, onto my voice. When you look at beautiful sceneries, like how the wind blows, how the grass grows, and how the sand feels on your feet, how the waves, they all about songs. There's a lot of music, like especially art songs, which I love to do, art song leader. And a lot of time they talk about nature. They talk about how the wind blows and stuff like that, right? And how the nightingale sings in the night. You have to go and feel them. This is what I normally tell my students during summer holiday, because they usually get a chance to go on like a vacation and things like that. I said, go and do your vacation, not only just do your shopping and do your
feel everything.
Feel the grass, feel when you have to go to a holiday by the beach, go and walk onto the sand, see how the waves hit on your feet, and feel all the things, feel the sunshine on your face, feel that warmth, because in the end you're going to use it in the song. Because funny enough, like for example the song written by Debussy, Bourgeois talk about sunsets, talking about the waves. If you ever been to a sunset in Bali, for example, you walk around the Kuta beach and then you see the waves flowing like this, or in Sri Lanka, and then you see the sun setting, beautiful with red and all that. And then you instantly understood what Debussy was trying to paint, these impressionist pictures. And to me, so going on holiday is not only for pleasing myself, but it's also for getting inspiration for singing, for especially arts.
How did you get into this love for classical music?
At first I began as like everyone in pop singing. I sing a lot of pop songs at primary school, middle school. Then I got transferred to study in Perth in Australia, and
how old were you when you went to Perth?
I was 17, and when I went to Perth, and I met up with this
you
lady.
Went to Perth to study?
To study just high school. like year 11, year 12, and then I went on to university. When I was in year 11, I met up with this wonderful friend from Singapore, Farida Ali, and she was also a student there, and she already is quite an established jazz singer in those days, and she was doing some jazz singing at the school. I was listening to her, mesmerized, and then I thought, if she couldn't sing like that, I wish I could do the same too. And she sort of like guided me to, okay, you can also sing also. And then years later, fast forward 25 years later, I got back in touch with her again. And I was so happy. And the first question she asked me, Francis, are you still singing? And I'm still singing. I'm not only singing, I'm singing classical music. I'm also teaching. So she was very happy. And that's how we started back on track, the friendship. So to me, Singapore is not only new opera singers, it's also Farida, my group of friends, my cheering squad, I call it. And how I got into classical singing, it was by chance when I studied a year in Perth. And then year 12 finished, and I transferred to Sydney, in Newcastle actually, to do my university. And I wasn't really enjoying the subject I was doing. My father was asking me to do commerce. All the Chinese parents want their children to become a doctor, a lawyer, big businessman, blah blah blah, so boring, And I failed almost every subject, unfortunately, I must admit.
You didn't like
I didn't like, and I used to just not take lessons at university. I just took a train down to Sydney and just go sightseeing, There was this Sydney Opera House was an inspiration for me because I didn't know what to expect. I just saw this beautiful building, the Sydney Opera House. I joined the backstage tour and I saw the stage of Madame Butterfly. And I didn't know what Madame Butterfly was all about. And then the lady of the tour told me, "Oh, sir, you can actually, get a ticket and see it at night if you want to." I was staying in Sydney that night. I said, "Okay," but of course, Butterfly is always a full house. But when you go at the box office 30 minutes before the performance, there are some tickets where people can't come. They just have to put in box office to sell. And I bought one of those A reserve tickets. I was sitting next to a very kind old lady. Her partner was sick, couldn't come that night, and the ticket was like quite expensive and wouldn't want to waste it. So I was sitting next to her. She was very kind to me. She said, "Oh, young man, do you know what is this all about?" I said, "I don't know." "Well, you look at this."
Young man, you know what this is about?
Yeah, I was a young man once, like we all do. And then out came the stage, and then I was hearing all this singing. It was a bit too much for me, I must say. And then I look back. Oh, that was interesting. What I heard. What is it all about? So I was very inquisitive. I went to the gift shop, the Opera House, and I bought some books, and I also bought some cassette tapes in those days. And I got into it so much that I thought it was so interesting. There was so many layers of this music.
So you were still skipping classes?
Yeah, I was still skipping classes. And I went into the library, searched for all the records they have, and I listened, and that was the libretto.
But you were doing your homework.
I was doing that homework for that, but I still failed my school up. And in the end, the school had to kick me out, because I was no good. And I begged my father to let me go back to Perth, because Perth did welcome me with open arms in one of the university there, which I was able to do linguistics and interpreting, translating, which was more of my field. I love languages. I do speak a few different languages, and I also can translate also. So that's my field.
What do you speak?
I speak Japanese, and I speak French, and also Italian. But that was for later. But my Japanese was apart from English, was my third language, because I did do in high school, and I did quite well. I got an honor for that, and I always loved languages, and I didn't know that was going to help me to pave my path for the opera, because you need to have a very good set of ears to pick up the language. There's so many languages. So I went back to Perth. After Newcastle, I was inspired already, because I did take lessons in Newcastle. I went into the conservatorium and knocked on the door and said, "Do you teach singing here for a layman like me?" And a teacher took me, and I had a few months lesson. I started with Caromeo Band, and that's how I always remember that song. For me, it's a benchmark of how to measure your voice, and whenever I got a problem with my voice, I come back to that song. And I go back to Perth, where I study. Next door to it is the Music Conservatorium. Isn't that interesting. And of course,
Which university was
it's
that?
Edith Cowan University.
Okay.
It was called Wacky before. I don't know these.
Yeah.
And then WAPA is also quite famous in
Yeah.
Australia, Western Australia Academy of Performing Arts. And I asked them when I was taking my subject, can I actually take a subject from the music conservatorium too, as one of the subjects?
Units, yeah.
And I was able to take singing as a subject. So I went there and auditioned and I got in. And that's how I began my classical training, formal classical training. And I was bombarded with songs in German and French and Italian. And honest to God, I don't know what I was thinking of. I didn't know how I was going to do all these foreign languages I don't even speak. And then the teacher was very kind to me, started me off, says, why don't you also take an Italian class? Which I was also allowed to, so I started there. And then many years later in Hong Kong, when I was back in Hong Kong, that was like many years later, I was able to take German class also, and also along with that I took French. So they came on board later.
How did your acting develop?
When I was back in Hong Kong, I took a position as an invited student. Also, in return, I performed for them, and also I was able to take in a few students to teach for them. In return, they have something like that in Hong Kong, in the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, and there they have acting classes, and that's where I was given the opportunity to do acting classes, to learn how to fall, to learn how to suddenly go from this emotion to that emotion, and also to act little scenes, drama, not singing, but they're pure drama, and it was not easy for me because I've always been concentrating on the singing,
Yeah.
and without the singing, it's like I felt like I was not wearing any clothes. It's like naked. But I went through that, and I think every opera singer needs to go through acting classes in order to improve. You need to feel not only your singing in the opera way, but you also have to act out the role and also the emotions.
What in acting is difficult for you?
Sad. When you have to cry, it's very hard to do when you suddenly have to cry. For me, it's very hard because I'm a happy person.
I think the most difficult thing to sustain is looking like you're in love the whole time. I think that is the hardest for me.
Really, I have no
Yeah.
difficulty with that. But then I was never given the opportunity to do this love role where we're looking at someone with enjoy and love. No, not for me. But for me, it's like very sad. I have to cry. As someone who dies or something. For me, it's a little bit hard. But as I get older, as I have more life experience that I collect now, I think crying now for me is a bit easier now because I have a lot more sad things that happened around me that I can draw upon them and then use it for my emotions.
In Hong
For
Kong,
my
while
acting.
you were doing your teaching, did you
Yes.
not think of doing your own concerts?
Oh, I did do my
So
own
you
concert.
did.
I did my one and only solo recital in 2004. That was a long time ago. And then I left that in the back boiler, teaching. And then I was given the opportunity they asked me, would I like to sing for charity? And I thought, oh, why not? Because if I sing for charity, they're doing the hard work of selling tickets and things. I'm just there to sing. So and I did that in Canada. Many years later, that was 2014 in Toronto. I did a charity concert for the church, for the United Church there, to raise funds for African families.
So how did you get invited for that one?
Because students have connections. They were looking for someone who could offer their voice. Of course, the payment is not much, because you're doing charity. So basically, just give you a small honorarium. You're really, really doing it out of love. And I tell you what, singing. That's why my father was against the idea of me taking singing as a major, because he did say singing doesn't put food on the table. Partly he's right. Like if you are very famous, like the big opera singer like Renee Fleming, then it does put food on the table. Then it's also very stressful too. But I think teaching put food on the table. So we got that part covered. Then I can then do my singing without having to worry about how much am I getting in return. Because we sing out of love, right? Out of passion. And what better than to sing out of love, and then this love can be transferred into helping others. That's why charity concert is one of my one of my regular do's. I did that for Canada, and I did that for London one time. But not in the Convent Garden, of course. It's just in a small place for raising fund for old people's home, for a nursing home, which I was very happy. I did that in Sydney, back in Australia, and I also did that in New Zealand a couple of times. I did a lunchtime concert in a beautiful church. And also in Hong Kong, I still sing in the St. John's Cathedral, which is a very famous.
So the St. John's Cathedral is
like St. Mary's here.
How often do you do that?
Once a year.
Once a year. What occasion?
It's in Central. It's in amongst the tall buildings like Hong Kong Bank. It's his heritage building. A lot of tourists does visit the St. John's Cathedral to look at the old
So that once a year event, what is it?
It's Wednesday lunchtime concert, and it's very hard to get in because they have a very strict criteria to who they choose to sing in there, and also the program has to be classical. I did that a couple of times already, and they asked me if I would do next year's, which will always be like in beginning or middle of July. I said yes. I said yes to that because I missed last year because I had to come for the rehearsals of new opera.
So what are your future plans for the next 5-10 years?
Well, next 5-10 years.
You're coming to Singapore a lot?
I'll come into Singapore a lot. Hopefully, if they like me, I would love to be able to perform again in the opera, in New Opera Singer. I love that company. It's a very good work environment, and I just feel comfortable. You found the right. It's like you found the right partner, that kind of thing.
Are you also going to produce your own concerts for yourself?
I was thinking of that, yes. Probably in Hong Kong, but maybe I can do one in Singapore. I need to get in touch with some people to see how that works. But definitely my path will be singing. The next 5 to 10 years will be teaching and singing. I want to sing as much as I can because as I'm advancing in the age, and I would like to read the experience and think before then when you become really much older, then you can look back and say, hey, I've been there and done that. Thank you very much. Over. I love speaking to you too, Hawk. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes.